yeah, why would you only make? You could have got a lot more for that guy. But um, speaking of old guys, Gronkowski just hasn't really been that great this year. Is he just? Is it just a matter of injuries?
I wouldn't say injuries in the sense that it's an injury this year that's slowing him down. I would say it's the accumulation of a guy who's had whatever the stat is, 11 surgeries dating back to college. He plays the position. The thing that I think people forget about is, in all the CTE stuff, I think one of the things that's really come to light is that, yeah, we all see the big hits and we know how dangerous kickoffs and stuff, but the guys who have really suffered, to bring it back for you and your fans, Mike Webster is a guy who just smashed his head against somebody for his entire career.
Yeah.
So we've all seen the big, the Earl Thomas hit on Gronkowski a couple years ago, the Ward hit on his knees years ago, all those kind of plays. But I really think it's the inline blocking. And unlike a lot of the guys who are so explosive, Jimmy Graham, Travis Kelce, and guys like that who are really great in the pass game, I think Gronkowski, inarguably is better than any of them in the run game. And I think that that's taken a lot of wear and tear on his body, add in the injuries. And then, again, you can't dispute the fact that, cliches are annoying because we hear them 1,000 times, but they're all rooted in truth somewhere, right? And the old adage and the old cliche is that once you start thinking about retirement, you're retired. And I think that's a Bill Parcells line from back in the day. And so he had one foot out the door this summer, this summer. A lot of wear and tear on it. He looks less explosive. And the other thing is he doesn't look as strong to me. And he's like head first into the TB12 stuff, which is all about pliability and flexibility and all this stuff, which I don't know. That doesn't really sound like what I want out of my tight end who I need fighting out of jams at the line. So I wonder if there is a correlation that this was the first year he really went into the whole TB12 thing. And now all of a sudden he looks less explosive and less strong. So to me, I think it's kind of a trio of all three of those things. And I honestly think that this is his swan song. And whenever the Patriots season ends this year, that's when Gronkowski's season or his career ends.
Wow. Yeah. Maybe that TB12 stuff works for quarterbacks and not so much for tight ends. Yeah, maybe when you want your tight end to be a little bit stronger or faster or something. But we know he's not a good defensive back. That's for sure.
we learned that last week for sure.
Don't worry, he could come out there in crutches and a wheelchair, and he'll still get 150 yards receiving against the Steelers. I think he's the biggest reason, or one of the biggest reasons, that the Patriots beat the Steelers every year is they just cannot stop the guy. It's really frustrating as a Steeler fan.
Well, and that's the thing is that because, I think a lot of people, people who just look at the stats will say that Gronkowski had kind of a resurgence last weekend. He didn't have a resurgence. The Dolphins played zone for some reason. And Gronkowski's proven all year that he can't fight through man coverage. So they played zone. He's still, even though his body isn't there, his mind's still there. He's still as dumb as he can be as a person, or kind of like that frat boy. He's a really smart football player. So if you give him zone coverage, he's gonna find the soft spots and get open. And all you have to do is look back to that Steelers game last year with the Patriots. They shut him down for 3.5 quarters, and then inexplicably you guys went to zone coverage on the last drive, and he goes down on I think he had 3 catches on that drive for 60 something yards, and the Patriots go and score a touchdown. It's just like, so provided, hopefully for you guys, the Steelers watched the film and said, okay, that stupid thing we did on the final drive, we're just not going to do that this year. This year we're going to stay on a man coverage and force him to fight through, press and get downfield, and hopefully our pass rush can get home before that's possible.
It was absolutely amazing to see. Yeah, you're right. They shut him down for most of the game, and then for some reason they just decided to change their philosophy, and just every single pass was just 5 minutes ago. Pass the Gronk.
It was unbelievable.
It was amazing. Yeah,
we call it there's a local radio show down here, which is one of my favorites because in case you and your listeners aren't picking up on this, I am not a Bobo Patriot fan. I'm a pretty cynical guy. And there's a radio station or a radio show down here that's particularly negative. And one of my favorite things they do is they look at between the 4 major sport teams down here, and they have a category they call fake wins, where they say that the other team lost, not that the home team won.
Okay.
And they ruled that Patriots win against the Steelers last year as a fake win because they said, provided Ben doesn't throw that atrocious pick at the end of the game and provided they don't stop playing man on Gronkowski for no reason with 5 minutes to go, the Patriots lose that game. So it's a fake win. So they don't count it as a real win, which is one of my favorite stats in sports now.
That's awesome.
I just look at Boston teams and I grade which wins they don't deserve. And that was one last year. And again, I wouldn't be surprised just because of that if Gronkowski has a big day. But hopefully Tomlin just puts on the tape from last year and says, okay, we're going to take the first 55 minutes and do what we did there.
Yeah.
The last 5 minutes, we're just going to avoid that plan.
They're also talking about that game because of the Jesse James non-catch referee fiasco. So that was also a big part of that game, and basically that's what I've heard this week is like, well, we would have won the game if it wasn't for that if that catch was allowed to be upheld. So yeah,
crazy play. That's a rule that I get to a certain point and I get in a fight with a lot of people about this one too. But I think personally that replay's ruining sports to me. We have replay to try to it's this fake chase of perfection that we'll never achieve. And I go back to the Dez catch, that catch last year with Jesse James, that the whole idea is that, when I say that we should get rid of replay, and I think we should have replay for obvious calls in important times. However you want to define that, we can work on that. But I think that's where we should start. But in general, the idea people always say to me is that, they got to get it right. Well, we still don't agree on the Jesse James catch. We still don't agree on the Dez Bryant catch. What does replay solve? We still all argue it. We watch it in slow motion in 10,000 different angles. Right. And, the example that I always use is that, let's use our teams here. The Red Sox and the Pirates could be playing on April 10th. And it could be the second inning, and we got to watch 15 replays of a double play to see if the guy kept his foot on second or not. In a game out of 162, replays slow down the pace of play. And again, that call last year, and I'll tell you, that absolutely was a touchdown. But I look at it this year. They've tried to redo the rule even more this year, and I think I'm more confused this year than ever what a catch is. It still makes no sense to me. It should be one of the easiest definable things in sports. And they've somehow made it so much more convoluted and confusing that we all fight, but I think we all eventually come to the end of it that me and you could fight right now and we agree, but let's say I was a typical Patriot fan who said that wasn't a catch. Me and you could fight, and then at the end of the 5 minutes, I think we both come to the same conclusion that we'd say, well, I don't know what a catch is anymore, because that's just where it is. And is that any fun for anybody? So, stuff like that, I think that they just got to clean it up and simplify it. I think a lot else went wrong for the Steelers in that game, but that one is certainly not, to be excluded because that was a pivotal moment and a terrible call.
Yeah, but regardless of whether that call or not, you're right. The whole, changing your whole defensive philosophy in the end of the game, and just, even the Steelers defensive backs were like, "Hey, we can't stop this guy. Can I get some help here?" It was just so it was so obvious that it just was not working. But on to this year, how is the Patriots offense different? It seems like maybe they're not emphasizing the passing as much.
Yeah, so it's different in a lot of ways, and I think it started with the draft. Taking a running back in the first round, it feels like they're acknowledging Brady's age and they wanted to build in a more sustainable run game, similar to what the Broncos did in the late 90s, drafting, well, that's not true because Terrell Davis was, I think, a 6th-round pick who only ended up making the team because of a special teams play he made in the preseason. But, what they ended up with once he elevated to that guy where they were able to give him a run game and kind of take some pressure off of him. So I think, one, that's what the Patriots want to do. 2, Gronkowski not being himself is definitely hurting. And Edelman is having good numbers because I think Edelman's mind is still there. His playmaking ability is still there. But his quickness off the line, I think, has been a little bit, if you look at his numbers, he's on pace for like a career season. I think he's on pace for like 1,100 yards, nearly 100 receptions, and like 7 touchdowns or something like that right now. So his numbers are fine. His production's been fine. Obviously missed the first 4 games, but his pace is that. But I don't think he's as quick off the line as he's been in years past. And again, a fight I had with a lot of Patriot fans in the offseason when they didn't go out and address the slot receiver need. You're asking a lot of a 32-year-old coming off an ACL injury to come out there and be the same guy with the same agility and quickness off the line that he's always had. So I think they're missing that. I don't know what it turned into after last week, but I know going into last week, there was a stat floating around in the Boston Globe that the Patriots were last in the league in conversions on 3rd and 6. I think it was like 3rd and 4 to 3rd and 6, which is considered like a 3rd and medium. Which is typically their bread and butter. You put Brady in a 3rd and 5 situation, you would think he's going to convert that 50% of the time, but they're actually last in the league. So I think there's some of that. Brady's definitely banged up. There's something going on with his knee. I know it was a great joke and stuff in that Titans game when he tripped himself up. But that knee's been bothering him a lot since. And there was a moment where after one of the touchdowns this weekend, he got up and his knee was hurt and he was kind of walking off gingerly. And so it feels like he's bailing out of throws earlier. Like and we don't know which knee it is, but it looks like one of the knees he doesn't want to put weight on. So I think that's affecting him. But overall, what it really is unlike you guys, which is just a damn wide receiver factory. The Patriots have never been able to develop wide receivers. They traded away a guy who caught 1,000 yards last year because people didn't like the way Brandon Cooks played, because that's such a Boston thing that like everyone's got to be a tough guy. Everyone's got to go over the middle, get their head taken off. And Brandon Cooks is too soft and he's too finesse. Like, oh, ho hum caught 1,000 yards last year. No big deal. Guys caught 1,000 yards every year he's in the league. But apparently we'll trade him away to go draft a tackle in a guard's body who couldn't even make it out of preseason. Thanks, Isaiah Wynn. So that's what the Patriots did. So now they had to go get Josh Gordon, who did have a hamstring when he came in, and he's a little bit slower. There's something going on with Chris Hogan where he's just not, relevant anymore. Malcolm Mitchell couldn't stay healthy. The only rookie outside of Deion Branch that the Patriots have ever been to develop at receiver. And it's just like, so you have Edelman, a less effective Edelman, a less effective Hogan. You have Gordon, who's been good, not great. He's certainly not 2013 Gordon. I think he's battling through some stuff. And then Philip Dorsett, who, although has been, I think if you look at his reception rate on targets this year, it's been phenomenal. But for whatever reason, since they got Josh Gordon, they just don't put Philip Dorsett on the field. So it just feels like they're just not very cohesive. And, I think it's just it's a multitude of factors.
I have a feeling Josh Gordon's going to have a big game this week. So when he was with the Browns, he would torch the Steelers. So it would not surprise me.
Yeah, and he's been effective. So I don't want to downplay that, but he just he's basically he's a chunk yardage guy right now. He catches 3 or 4 balls, in his best game's 5, and it's usually 80, 90 yards. So he's putting up like 20 yards of reception. He has a touchdown. So he's been good, but he hasn't had one of those true ridiculous wide receiver 1 games where you get 185 yards on 11 grabs for 2 touchdowns. Like, he just hasn't been that guy. He's been consistently, a steady guy in the offense, but more of a guy they're looking for big home run plays when the Patriots offense is at its best, when they're methodically moving the ball down the field, not really looking for those chunk plays.
So how do you think this is going to go down? Who do you think is going to win?
I mean, history makes me want to take the Patriots, but I mean, I hate this spot for the Patriots because both teams need the game. But the Steelers can't afford to lose this game. No. And they're at home. So I just don't. I mean, I think I took the Steelers last year and I ended up wrong on that because it just feels like something is going to happen. God is going to interfere, and for whatever reason, he's more of a Patriot fan than he is a Steeler fan, and I don't. It feels like something's going to happen, and yeah. But if I'm going to go Steelers. I hate this game. I wouldn't pick it. Last I looked, it was still a pick 'em. I wouldn't touch this game as a gambler for the life of me. The joke today I heard on Boston radio, which is a great one, is that neither team is going to win this game, but one of them is going to lose it. So, yeah. They're predicting that one of these, because the Patriots suck on the road and the Steelers have just not played really smart football this year. Although I'll say, because I watched that game against San Diego intently the other night or a couple weeks ago, and the blatant false start, the block in the back that was missed. I mean, that game was like, I look at the last 2